Good evening. Welcome to the Spiritual But Not Religious Show. I'm your host, George Lewis. Boy, this has been a great week here. We're in sunny Florida. I don't know if you're in some of that cold weather, but gosh, we've just had the best weather, the warmest winter in 78 years down here. So it's been really enjoyable. I hope wherever you're at, you've been having a good time and you've enjoyed it. I've got a great guest for us tonight. Appreciate your coming and visiting us tonight. Before I talk with you about my guest, I want to tell you a bit about the Spiritual Broadcasting Network, SBN, and the Spiritual But Not Religious Show and what we're doing and why we're doing it. I'm convinced that we are in the midst of a transformation, a shift, if you will. I don't buy the 2012 doomsday part of all this. I do believe that I think this spiritual revolution has been going on for quite some time, and what we're going to do is not reach the end of the world, but reach the end of the old order, our old way of thinking, where really greed was the dominant, and all of the negative characteristics of humanity was more dominant than the love side, the kindness side. And I believe we're moving into a whole new space where kindness and the light side really is prevailing in the more dominant side. And at least, I talk with an awful lot of people who are involved in this kind of thinking, and if it's not, it's certainly well backed at this point with minds, and I'm quite sure we'll hit a tipping point where that will actually happen. What I don't think, however, is that we will see some major change that we can recognize, but more, I think what will occur is kind of like what happened from the Dark Ages to the Renaissance. There was a period of time in there where the Dark Ages was really tough, and the Renaissance was a whole different way of life. But there was no real point that you could say, okay, it happened on this day, and there was a jump in consciousness and everything changed. But it changed, nevertheless. So my guest tonight is Maurice Turmel, or Dr. Mo, as he calls himself. He's been a psychologist for 30 years, no longer practicing, I believe. He is a writer, an author, and a musician, and a singer. The guy is really talented, and best of all, he's got a great sense of humor, too. So let me welcome Maurice to the show. Tom, we got Maurice on?
Yes, we do.
Hey, Maurice.
Hi, George.
How are you, sir?
I am very good, thank you. And yourself?
I'm great. Well, judging from what I see, your little room there, you look to me like you're doing really great. That looks like a really cozy, comfy room. I like it. I was saying to Tom, like Maurice certainly looks like Maurice. You've got that Maurice, that French look.
Well, I had to put something on my head, George, because my key light is shining off my bald pate, and I don't want to be blinding your viewers. So.
I was fighting that all evening. Had to move lights around, so I know exactly what you're talking about there. Listen, Maurice, I really like what I've read so far of your material and your music. I'm impressed. Let me tell you what I'm impressed with. You were a psychologist for 30 years?
Right.
Practicing psychologist. It seems to me that you came out pretty unscathed and better off for the whole for that whole 30 years. And I've known quite a few psychologists that didn't. It's a pleasure.
I appreciate you saying that, George, because it's inside the profession. When you're coming from the orientation that I've developed since the 80s, you're pretty much swimming upstream.
Absolutely.
You have to be cautious about who you share things with, but George, you would be surprised the number of psychologists who are closet spiritualists or spiritually oriented people. It's like so many things in our society, the psychologist's public life is by the book, whereas their private life, for many of them, is quite exploratory and open to these ideas that are a mainstay for you and I.
Yeah, I can believe that. Carl Jung, the psychiatrist, he was like that. He was very spiritual. Matter of fact, he was into Gnosticism and for quite some time.
Covered a lot of topics that were important to me. Chief among them, the collective unconscious, from which I believe we derive our mythologies. And the reason I became a psychologist is because I love mythology.
Uh-huh.
I love the myth of the hero, for example, and one of your great philosophers, Joseph Campbell, great American philosopher, wrote many books on mythology, including the one that I patterned my PhD thesis on, which was The Hero with a Thousand Faces.
Absolutely. Well, you know, I first got introduced to Campbell, probably like most of us, through Bill Moyer's interviews with him that he did. Fantastic. Had a huge impact on my life. So let's talk about myth. That's a good place to start. You don't see that many people who read our old myths. And, you know, they're so impacting. What makes me wonder is, do we need an update on our myths? Do we need more modern myths to, you know, like to catch the attention of younger people?
Actually, George, we continue to live our mythology even though we don't call it that anymore.
Uh-huh.
We've associated the term myth, that's a myth, with something pejorative. But the fact is, you pick any great American movie, a great movie from any part of the world, but most of them are American. There's always a hero, or a heroine. There's something to overcome, and the ones that exemplify the classic hero myth are the ones where the person who goes through whatever the heroic process is, whether it's actually fighting a seven-headed hydra, but more likely fighting or dealing with demons inside, they come out the other end humble and experienced and offer themselves up to the service of mankind.
Yeah, they come out changed, don't they?
Yeah, they come up changed. Joseph's three stages were separation, initiation, and return. And the initiation part is what makes the good movies, you know, what the hero, heroine has to face. The return part is where they apply their good afterwards. And all light workers around the world, we're all being called through the hero myth to activate our mission and to deliver on the promises that we made before we came here. That's what we're called to do right now.
Yeah, I'm convinced that that's correct. You know, I have a book sitting on my coffee table now. I can't think of the name of it. It's a writer's book, and it's all about exactly what you're talking about. If you're going to write a book, you really need that hero's journey. That's that whole process. If you write your book according to that, you got a Hollywood movie ready to be scripted. So you're right on with that.
What they do in Hollywood, of course, is they outpicture the demons that a hero or heroine has to battle with and turn them into either monsters or metallic cops like in Terminator movies, or something physical that has to be dealt with. One of the most brilliant hero movies was Alien.
That was a fantastic movie, wasn't it, for Hero?
Absolutely.
And with the female heroine.
And the first time for me, and I don't know if it was the first time in movies, but the first time that the hero was a woman, Sigourney Weaver.
Right.
Wow. That movie left a big mark on me for the longest time because it exemplified in our modern language the fact that mythology hasn't gone away, George. It's still here. We're living it every day, and we just find new ways to put it into the language of our modern times, which are movies and videos and music and all of the media that we enjoy today.
Well, you talk a bit about the Force, which George Lucas and Star Wars. I mean, that was definitely a hero's journey. Great movie. that
force,
would be, go ahead.
the force was just a great word for, the power, the energy, all that is, the great creator.
Right.
The force, as they exemplified with Darth Vader and with his son, as it turns out, the good guy and the bad guy, was, you could choose the negative side of the force, or you could choose the positive side of the force. And the positive side of the force is what the Occupy movement's about.
Absolutely.
They're about the positive side of the force. They're about beating down, if I can even use that phrase, beating down the cabal or the Illuminati, the people, the banksters, the people who are controlling things or have been for a long time, beating them down with just honesty. No retaliation, no violence, just honesty.
Gandhi.
It's how Indians of India kicked out the British in 1947.
Absolutely.
Powerful.
Gandhi proved that how powerful that was. Not one shot fired. It was pretty amazing stuff. Well, I hear that down here, I hear at the Tea Party, trying to make them look something like they're not, but they're there, and the timing's really perfect on it. The written work you sent me a couple of them that I really spent some time with was Conscious Evolution: Preparing for the Ascension of 2012. Very interesting work. Tell us what that means, that title, Preparing for the Ascension of 2012.
Well, conscious evolution is what we're doing now, George, is those of us who have stated, either out loud or written it out, as saying, I am here for ascension. I am here for Ascension 2012. I am committed to it. I am committed to my personal ascension, which is as much as we can do. We commit to our personal ascension to benefit from all these energies coming in. So that's conscious evolution is I choose to grow. I choose to become, to evolve into all that I am. I am not just going to be that little steel ball in one of those games, pinball games, just being bounced around. I'm actually going to make choices now about how my life should go, and I'm going to pay attention to my heart, my feeling center, which urges me in emotional whispers, I will call them. And it's what Joseph Campbell called following your bliss.
Right.
And it's not at all what the detractors want to say is following your bliss. Then people just go off and be stoned all the time, or some other non-productive or self-destructive thing. No, following your bliss is simply being finely tuned to whatever that wavelength is for you. If that's making music, if that's producing television shows, if that's teaching, if that's working in a correction center, if that's working as a volunteer in various places where kids gather and need guidance, that flame, that passion, that's your bliss. And that's what each of us was perfectly designed for, and what we were steered away from by the powers that be, the people who want us to work 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, or the churches that want us to operate by their rules and dump money into their kitty. Those things have masked the true meaning of our lives, which is what ascension is about, to further answer your question, George. Ascension is about recovering that spark and not just recovering it, but fanning it into a full-blown flame. When we move into the fifth dimension, as we will very, very closely be by the end of this year, this is coming at us fast and furious. We will be very close to it at the end of this year, and some of us will be there. Many of us will be there, and we'll be past the symptomology that so many people are experiencing right now with the aches and pains and flu-like symptoms. We will be there, and the world is going to shift towards a world of cooperation, a world based on exchange as opposed to competition. And we're going to share. And it's going to be so much easier because we're all going to be doing what we love to do, what we were designed
Absolutely, and doing everything necessary to bring myself to a state of joy is exactly following that bliss that you're talking about. Matter of fact, my lead into the show, you could have given my lead for me, Maurice. We're right there. That's what this network's about. That's what this show's about. Exactly what you're talking about, and that's why you're on the show. Quite frankly, is because I spotted you out there, and I just you have that kinship, and so.
Well, I feel a connection to you, George, and those of us who are learning to trust our vibration. We know when we're in the presence of another light worker.
Absolutely.
And we can even feel it through the Skype TV screens or the phone networks. We can feel it. We're recognizing each other now, and we're sort of winking and saying, "Yeah, it's wake-up time. Coach is calling us into the game.
Right.
It's time to go."
and it's about time.
It's about time. I agree.
Boy, it's been a crazy world. Listen, I think what we're going to do is we're going to give our audience another side of your talent. You're a really talented guy, and I tell you what, the one song for sure brought back kind of shades of the Doors to me in your music.
Thanks, George. I want to just say to you that the Doors, particularly the song "Riders on the Storm,"
oh yeah,
that was the first spiritual music set to a rock and blues beat that I could identify with.
Absolutely, right there, and I was right there with you the same way. That was a powerful song.
So that feeling that they convey,
yes,
that serious feeling, when the song lends itself to it, I love to capture that. Yeah.
Well, it comes through on this first song. We're gonna play that song for our audience so they can catch on to what I'm talking about here. And after it, we'll come back and we'll talk about the song a little bit.
Okay.
Hey, Tommy, you want to cue that up? Oh, there we go.
You know you don't mean it when you get down tonight. You know you don't care about what isn't right. You lost that loving feeling for what life used to be. You're looking for a place when you can be free. Catch a falling star, I'm saying to you now. Catch a falling star, 'cause that is who you are. catch a falling star and sing to you now. Catch a falling star, that is who you are. That is who you are.
So, Maurice, that's a great song. Are you responsible for writing the lyrics and the melody?
Yeah, from scratch, and I play all the instruments except the drums.
Is that right? How long have you been a musician and a songwriter?
Well, the songwriting, George, didn't start till 1997.
Uh-huh.
And I've been a musician all my life. When I was a child, I played the accordion. When I was a teenager, I tried the trumpet for a while. And then in my 20s, my second daughter was born. I turned 25. And somehow a guitar landed in my lap. And that's when I started with the guitar. So that's 40. And as far as composing music, well, that didn't start happening till after I started receiving or being, feeling that and perfecting that connection with my guidance and source.
Right.
The books came first, and I have many more books than or not many more, but a couple of more, and collections of short stories and poetry. The music actually didn't start till 97. I was 52 years old, and I'd gotten back into the guitar after being away from it for 10 years. And I just started fooling around, and it just hit me that there was a song coming. And of course, the easiest pattern to follow for any song is a blues pattern.
Right.
12-bar blues pattern. So that was my first song, and it's actually not on any collection right now, but it was simply called "Are You Ready?" And it asked the musical question, are you ready for love? Are you ready to shine? That was 1997. A lot of things I was receiving in the 90s only make sense today.
Right.
I didn't, that The Voice, for example, the novel about people being picked up from planet Earth and being taken to the Pleiades to be trained, to be prepared for the ascension of mankind. I didn't know that that was forecasting for 2012. I wrote the first draft of that book in 1996. I had no idea about 2012. It's only now that so many things are coming together. The music has been with me since, 15 years now. And I did my first professional CD in 2000, so 12 years ago.
Right.
I also flirted with Nashville. They liked me down there.
Did they?
You have to have a lot of money to break into Nashville, and you have to be really patient.
Right.
And I wasn't about to do that. I had lots of things in the cooker.
And more importantly, you got to really want it.
Yeah. Well, what I want is what's coming together now is to be ready to deliver on all the things that I've been developing and growing since this whole process began. I mean, I know I'm here for a reason.
Absolutely, me too.
No accident, and I've been waking up to this mission for the past 30 years, and I became a therapist not just because it looked good, but because I had a whole boatload of ugly, dysfunctional things in my life, in my family of origin, and in my exposure to religion.
Isn't that often the case?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of these things had to be worked through. So going back to my analogy of the hero myth, George, that was my initiation. I had to do the work. I had to do the work to clean out my system and to come to that point where I can really express that beautiful blue flame that is the divine within me, and to be an example to those who are seeking the same thing. And we know, those of us pursuing these activities and these personal growth experiences, we know that we have to do it for ourselves. So whatever we have to deal with, we have to do it. And the best we can do for others is to model what we're doing, and hopefully that inspires them to do it for themselves. We don't want to have what I would call the Jesus Christ fiasco. The guy shows up, does all kinds of miraculous things, and says, greater things than these shall ye do as well, and the kingdom is within, and all those great messages. And what did people do? They put him up on a pedestal and they idolized him, instead of getting the message that they can do it for themselves. That's what he was there to model.
Well, it's a lot easier to do that than to actually be responsible to do what the message was. So I certainly hear that.
Absolutely true.
What was
I think what's happening now, if I can just
go ahead.
a bit here, is you're aware of all these energies that we're experiencing, these blasts from the sun and the sources of energy that are coming at us from so many different directions, and this alignment of planets that's a once in every 26,000 year event. Those energies are contributing to our ascension process and to the what I call in the voice the acceleration of the pulse. The pulse is that flame within us, and the acceleration of the pulse is our conscious grabbing onto it and blowing some air on it so that it bursts into a big, beautiful flame, which is what we're here to do. That's the hero myth in action. And right now, the people who claim to be light workers and are all chat are going to be separated from the light workers who know that we're at the point where it's action time, people. It's time to get up and to stand up and to say what you're here for and to talk about who and what you are and to be part of the evolution of the species. It's time to do that. We're all being called to do that now. And the partiers and the hangers-on and the ones that are just talking the talk and not walking the walk, they're going to be fallen by the wayside, because this is where it gets maybe a little bit scary. It also gets exciting, like that first hill on a roller coaster when you get your heart in your throat. That's what we're all looking at right now, and light workers are the light workers who are here to do it are going to be separated from those who are just here to pretend.
Well, yeah, and I think you said something earlier that I think is really important, and that is that we have to lead by example. I mean, the best teachers are teachers who have done it themselves, and they're showing forth what they did and why they did it. Did you have some kind of a powerful spiritual experience, or was yours more the gradual educational variety?
I would say for me, it's been a gradual, step-by-step climb.
Right.
I can safely trace my curiosity back when I was 20. That's back in 1965, and I read my first self-help book called The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale.
I read it about the same time you read yours. Yes.
And then the 70s came along, and I'm okay, you're okay, and Fritz Perls and Gestalt therapy and the games people play, and there were tons of things going on in the 70s. Big Sur Esalen was on. There's a counterpart to that in the Channel Islands off Vancouver. There was a big wave then of curiosity and exploration and good stuff and not so good stuff. Then the 80s came with, all of a sudden now we've got people like Seth, and we've got Ramsa, and we've got all these channelers, and they're making the rounds, and Shirley MacLaine shows up and popularizes some of this material for us and makes it accessible, and you see the New Age sections of bookstores starting to grow, and enormous curiosity. I've been in this track all along. It's just now, the last 10, 12 years, I'm exclusively on this track. And everything else I've done was a lead up to where I am now. And I would say that that's probably going to be the story for a lot of us. That may be your story as well, George. That everything we've been doing and learning has led to this point now where we're talking about waking up humanity and about, coming out of the spiritual closet.
Well, you pretty much laid my track out in what you just said. We've traveled the same path with the same, the same materials, and everything. And I like you in the last 10 or 12 years, this has been my priority. Several years ago, I made a decision that was probably, I think, the most powerful decision I could have made, and it goes like this. I wanted to get all my senses involved, so I wrote it out. I spoke it aloud. I got emotion in it. I got the visual in it. I got, everything in it. And it goes, I no longer choose to make decisions that support my false pride and ego. I choose instead to make decisions that support my spirit. I can't tell you, how, what that intent has done for me, because intent is so powerful. That's what I hear you talking about, is intent.
George, that's conscious evolution.
It's right there, isn't it?
Right there.
Yeah. And
made the choice, you made the commitment. That's conscious evolution. Nobody's going to do it for us. We have to step up and do it.
Well, and the other thing is there's so many of us have to get past the idea that there's a magic wand or pixie dust or a pill.
Bad news, people. No magic wand, no pixie dust.
No,
you gotta,
no pixie dust.
Literally, you got to dig down inside and do what George and myself and millions like us are doing, and that's opening up to the grandeur of what we really are, our deepest, truest, most honest self. So my recommendation to all of you folks out there is to occupy your heart.
Well, I got my awakening back about 30 years ago, when wine, women, and song wasn't working for me any longer.
You tried that path, did you?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I had a very good time, and paid a good big price for it, but the price was minuscule compared to where it finally has brought me. I wouldn't trade for anything. You talk about the need to go back in and to really look at all your beliefs and have you got some kind of system that you do? Because we have a really hard time with self-honesty. We're not geared for that.
Let me answer that for you, George. For 30 plus years, I do one thing regularly. I do it almost every day, and that is I journal.
Right.
I have conversations with myself. I write about my day. And most certainly when there's pressing feelings coming up,
right,
break into tears, or I want to go and smash somebody because I just read another news story about a pedophile priest or something that gets me going.
I hear that.
I write it out. I get my feelings out, and that is such an important thing. Well, first of all, I had to learn to do that because I grew up in a repressive kind of family where nobody was allowed to express their feelings.
Right.
Except my father, who tended to be the rager and the most frightening figure in our house. But, he was just doing what he saw done, and he didn't know any better. And most certainly my mother and father didn't know about, paying attention to feelings and such.
Right.
So,
especially not then.
Not then, no.
No.
The repressive machine was on high operation, and that's what a lot of our earthly, we'll call them 3D, third-dimensional institutions are about. They're about conditioning and programming people and building in prepackaged expectations so that they can keep ticking off great profits while we go along thinking, oh, well, I'm supposed to work 8 hours a day. I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to do that. I'm supposed to achieve some great, great achievement. And so if I'm a bankster on Wall Street, if I only got $23 million last year in bonuses, then this year I have to get $30 million or more and more and more and more and more. I knew when I was 21 that more was the wrong way to go.
It doesn't work.
No, it's an addictive cycle.
Absolutely.
And how so many of these organizations make money is there's an addictive component to so many of the processes. But clearly, you go to Las Vegas, you know what that's about. It's about gambling. Well, and we know the consequences of drinking. That's about checking out of reality. Well, every addiction is about checking out of reality. But it's like the powers that be, they feed us these little distractions, right? These great competitions. Oh my God! How about the Super Bowl? How about the Super Bowl and the halftime show with all those iconic Illuminati images pulled right out of Egyptian reliefs?
Pretty amazing. Well, you know, and I'm sure Madonna was like, she was really aware too.
Yeah.
Because Madonna's into the Kabbalah and has been for quite a long time, you know.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. Listen, you gave me a new term. I like it, bankster. I'm taking that, and that's a great one because it says it right there.
It says it right there, and you guys in America.
Ah.
I was an off and on fan of Lou Dobbs.
Right.
Lou Dobbs is quite a conservative.
Big time.
But when he said, in 2008, he said, I don't see that these institutions should be bailed out, should be deemed too big to fail. Well, you know, looking back, it turns out he was right. And it's not that he isn't right very often, but for a conservative to take that position,
Unusual.
he was right. Yeah, unusual. So yeah, he's about calling these people to task. And my daughter, my eldest daughter, George, lives just south of you in St. Petersburg.
Just a little north.
She lost her house in that fiasco.
Right. Yeah, and most Floridians did, and if they haven't lost it, they probably should have because they're underwater.
Yeah. Oh.
Huge.
Of course, there's those challenges. But yeah, you know what? You guys got beat up really, really bad in that mortgage shuffle, and you need to be a little bit more angry about it. Angry in the sense of taking some kind of action or supporting actions that are being made available to you. I think, George, in these areas, the writing's on the wall for some of these folks, and I think there's going to be arrests there. Are you familiar with Benjamin Fulford?
I'm not familiar with that name, but I've been watching this very closely, and I'm familiar with some of the, the Biden, who's going to, come after a lot of these guys. And
David Wilcock, how about that?
Yeah.
All right, David Wilcock and Benjamin Fulford are, buddies now in terms of exchanging information and ideas. And DivineCosmos.com is where David Wilcock is, and he's just finished a big expose, like 3 years worth of work on the bankster system that is located in the U.S., but it is around the world.
Do you know him?
I don't know him personally, but yeah, the man had his life threatened, and he still goes ahead and publishes. That's a hero.
That's a hero. Absolutely,
Yeah.
That's a hero. And I agree with you. I think we need to take some action, and we need to be angry, and we can't be appeased with a few $1 billion where there's trillions of dollars. And listen, it was thieves who knew what they were doing, and they pulled it off.
Yeah, that's the criminal part, which will be exposed soon. But that's where the criminal charges can apply. There was intent to defraud, intent to harm, for the sole purpose of gathering more.
Absolutely. More. And all more does is leave you with the need for more. That's
an addiction.
Yeah,
it's an addiction.
Yeah, absolutely an addiction. So tell me, you mentioned Pallades. Are you? I've seen that. I haven't really paid a lot of attention to it. Are you involved there somehow or other, or what's your take on that?
Did you say Palladians?
The Palladians?
Yeah. I just pay attention to the messages that are through. There's one of the great channels, American channels. He's an American. His name is Greg Giles. He's out of California, and he posts just He posts daily messages from the Pleiadians and from the Galactic Federation and from all our friends that are hovering above us right now. Some of them flying into sight. Every day there's a new crop of UFO-related videos. They're here watching over us and waiting for our collective invitation to show up and help us clean up the mess that Moore has gotten us into. The Moore that got us the Gulf of Mexico fiasco, that got us damage to the ozone layer and to the different layers of energy that protect us from bursts from the sun and from foreign objects flying through our area, pollution in our waters, pollution in our air, the raping and pillaging of forests for the sake of more, and on and on and on. We don't need oil. There are free energy systems. Nikola Tesla developed them. J.P. Morgan, one of your banksters, one of your originators of the Federal Reserve, a crook par excellence.
Big time.
He silenced Nikola Tesla, and not only silenced him, but crushed him, ruined his reputation, because Tesla's discovery of pulling energy out of the air, it could not be metered, therefore money could not be made.
Absolutely.
Therefore, the need for more could not be met.
And there are many more examples of that
Yeah.
kind of behavior. So in your book, you talk about, one of your chapters is how we lost our way. Talk to us about a bit about that.
Essentially, we lost our way when let's just for illustrative purposes, I have no doubt that Atlantis existed and is somewhere beneath the sea, and Lemuria existed and is somewhere beneath the Pacific Ocean. And back in those days, and most of us, certainly those of us who are identified as light workers today, probably had lifetimes then. And that was a time when our presence on Earth, on the planet, we were in a fifth dimensional mode, which is just a higher vibrational level. And we're going back to that. And in the fifth dimensional mode, we see through the veil. So we were connected to Source all the time, and we knew Source. We knew and trusted that flame inside of ourselves. That was our guidance system, right? That was our GPS. We had it all along. Where we lost our way is when certain people, and we might admit, at some time, George, it's possible you and I were bad guys too.
Well, I think that's real possible. Yeah.
When we review our lives, we may see those, where we squirm. Oh, I did that. But at any rate,
yes.
That's when the shift happened. When some people saw that they could exercise power and control over others, and through conditioning processes. That's why I became a psychologist. Through conditioning processes, you could start to get people to believe things other than the reality that they were exposed to. And it seems that collectively, the human race, we just decided, okay, let's go down this dark path and see what's there. Well, we know what's there. This is hell.
Yeah, it's right here, isn't it?
We don't need to burn in hell. We are here now. Not that there isn't beauty and wonder and many wonderful things for us to enjoy, but we're killing we're killing our own planet. Like that's insanity. That's suicide. Why would we do that? So what we're recovering by going back to the fifth dimension and taking advantage of these energies that are coming in, we're going to recover that fifth dimensional connection, and we're going to probably be visiting with our long dead relatives. They're just going to be in a spiritual form that we can see through whatever vision or abilities to perceive that we will have. We're shifting. Our bodies are shifting. We're moving from the carbon-based anatomy to a crystalline-based anatomy. anatomy, which crystalline crystals hold more energy or higher and finer vibrations. So the idea of dying or death, that's going to be gone. People in Atlantean times and since then lived hundreds and hundreds of years. And I always remember these Bible stories where people couldn't reconcile. My mother couldn't reconcile that Noah lived to be 800 years old. Oh, well, that's impossible. It has to be a typo. Sure, a hand-transcribed Bible. It has to be a typo. No, the fact is that bodies lasted a long time because of the direct connection to source. Therefore, direct connection to all our healing abilities.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take. I want to play that second song of yours. We're going to play that, and then I want to come back and I want to talk about crystals. I've got some interesting stuff that we'll talk about crystals and the importance of crystals in all of this, really. Tom, you want to cue that up for us?
Sure.
What is this place I am calling to? Is it a place I can meet with you? How are you knowing when I am about? Should I be knocking or giving a shout? I am a quester on the road to fame, learning I have to meet with you again. How do I win what is mine alone? Do I like E.T. call home? Home is where the heart is. It's so fine and simple. Building that place called the Sonic Temple. Home of all auditory delights. Home of our heartaches and all our flights. Be gracious to the end, my dear. That's how you bring your temple near. Build us a sonic temple, won't you please? Inside our hearts, oh yes, with thee. Our souls need comfort and they need love to rise again like the dove. Our sonic temple is so well prepared for your arrival, so don't be scared. Free to grow and free to rise. A sonic temple comes alive. Build us a sonic temple, won't you please? Inside our hearts, oh yes, with ease. Our souls need comfort and they need love to rise again like the dove.
You know, I like your music a lot. First, let me say that. I enjoyed it very much. Let me tell you a little bit about Sarasota and what's happening here. We have a beach. Matter of fact, Tommy, we're about 3 miles from the beach here.
Yeah, about that.
We're about 3 miles from Siesta Key. This beach is known worldwide. Geologists from Harvard University tell us through their testing that the sand, 40 acres of this stuff, is crystalline quartz, all crystalline quartz. We have a disproportionate number of light workers here in the Sarasota area. I mean, they flock in here. And I just started a show that comes on at 7 o'clock, started last week, called Vortex Sarasota. We just live in this vortex, much like Sedona, where, you know, the hurricanes come and they just go around us. And, you know, it's just that kind of an area. You have a place up in Canada that I found comparable to, could almost be a sister city, is Toronto. A lot of spiritual people in Toronto.
That's true.
Where are you at specifically?
Okay, well, let me tell you about my area. I'm 10 minutes away from Niagara Falls.
Oh, okay.
This is a very powerful, high-energy area.
Absolutely.
And shamans from all around the world come here to experience the powers of the energies of the waters, which the aboriginals of this area considered and treated as sacred, going back hundreds and hundreds of years and probably beyond, because we only started recording history when we showed up, 500 or so years ago here in North America. But those running waters, I'm a Pisces, but my birthday is actually 2 weeks from today, and I have to be near water. And the beauty of where I am, George, is I'm on the Canadian side, but I'm 25 minutes from Buffalo, New York, and I'm 12 minutes from Niagara Falls, New York. So these are border communities, and people cross the border here like it's routine. Americans come to this side, and we go there, and there's exchanges of things. But on this side, I'm in what's called the Niagara Peninsula. So on to the north of me is Lake Ontario.
Right.
The south of me is Lake Erie, and to the east is the Niagara River, 25 miles that joins the Lake Erie to Lake Ontario, and part of the Great Lakes, the flow of water that goes all the way up to the St. Lawrence. It's very powerful energy here. Now, people come for the sights, and they come to experience the falls, and contrary to what some local people might think, they don't come here for the casinos. But, that's an afterthought. We have big casinos here, and that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
They come for the water, and it's one of the wonders of the world. So this is a high-energy area, and I would say a high-vibration area. Now, strange thing, for 22 years, I was gone from this area. I was living in the prairies. That's where I met my wife, and that's where I did all my training, and that's where I ran my practices out of Winnipeg, Manitoba, which is north of Minnesota.
Right.
Yeah, the state of Minnesota. So, but in 2001, it came through a family of consideration that my wife and I decided to move here. Now, she's a prairie girl, but this is my home area. Well, we came here to be with our grandchildren. We have 4 grandchildren. Yes, 4 grandchildren. And so we came here to be part of that. And also, the climate's better. It's cold on the prairies.
Yes.
But now, since coming back, I've learned for myself that this is a very high-energy area. So if you're going to take advantage of your environment, as you are doing there in Sarasota, then you may as well be sitting on top of a pile of quartz crystals
Absolutely, without
You got
question.
that energy.
Well, Tom and I are from Michigan, and I used to come into
Oh.
Canada through Sarnia and through, and spend a little time up around London, up in those areas, and Niagara Falls. And so I'm a water person. I'm a water person too. I'll tell you what, we're out of time. This hour has gone very quickly. I've totally enjoyed you, and we'll have to get together again. If you get down here where it's warm, look me up. We'll have some conversation, a little coffee, maybe something to eat.
George, I want to do more than that. I want to come down there and put on a show. I want to do something for an audience of light workers.
Okay, great. Come on down. Come down. We'll work with you on that.
That's all I want to hear. I'll be happy to come down and do that. And it's for me, one of the things I need to do is to be in front of an audience with this music now. And we can certainly talk about the things that you and I have talked about. They're dear to my heart, dear to your heart. I can hear that. I can see that.
Yes.
I've got to do this next step. I've got to be up on a stage and performing these songs and connecting with our light workers.
Hey, are you connected with Carl Stedman?
Actually, Carl and I have performed together at some little events. Oh, well, here's something I am going to do, and I will advise you of the date. I'm going to have concerts right here from my studio through a site called StageIt.com.
Oh, very cool.
And people will come to the concert from anywhere in the world. It's going to be by webcam, but I'm probably going to get a better situation for cameras,
right,
too, in a good sound system, and I'm going to do some concerts right from here in my studio, which is called the Cosmic Blues Cafe.
Cosmic Blues, that's great. That's great. Well, listen, we'll talk more. We'll figure something out here. I'm sure we can come up with something that's going to be beneficial for you and I and anybody who gets connected with it. So
we're going to have fun, George, and we're going to shake things up.
I'm ready. We'll talk. Thank you. Have a good night.
And thank.
Well, I've had a good time with Maurice. Maurice is a good guy, and we will do something together in the fairly near future. Next week I've got a great guest. I don't have time to talk about it now, but 9 o'clock next week, right here, Tuesday night. Be sure and come back. And in the meantime, don't forget to accentuate the positive and have a fantastic week.